Welcome to another episode of Pod for Good, a podcast where we learn from those doing good in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the world, why they care, what we can do, and most importantly, what you can do. Pod for Good is produced and edited by Ran Productions, which is me. So if you like how we sound and are thinking about starting a podcast, reach out to me. I am easy to find. Pod for Good can be found anywhere you get your podcasts. And if you enjoy what we do here, please make sure to subscribe and share this episode on social media. I am your chief philanthropod and class clown for justice, Sean Kemp, Jesse Ulrich.
And I'm your vice admiral philanthropod and class clown for justice, Detlef Schremp, Chris Miller.
On this episode, we're talking with Trey Thaxton, owner of Goldmill Co. and Greenwood Avenue.
We talked to Trey about Greenwood Ave's new amazing magazine, the power of the rebirth of Greenwood, and of course, 90s NBA players.
Reggie Miller still sucks. Enjoy. Trey, thanks for joining us today.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you, guys.
So for people who don't know, tell us the name of your company.
The name of my company is Goldmill, and then we have another organization called Greenwood Ave.
And you make, I see you're wearing one of your sweaters right now, which is very nice.
Thank you.
I also like the jackets. I'm a big fan of the jackets.
I appreciate it. I like them too.
So, this is a podcast. We're not always centered on Tulsa, but we do talk about Tulsa a lot. And I like to ask people what is their 1921 race massacre origin story? Like, when was the first time they heard about it? And I like to know when and where, because it's always not in school and
Right.
Not from the community. So
Right. Both of those would be consistent with me. So I moved to Tulsa when I was 11 years old from Decatur, Illinois. Obviously, I was 11, so I didn't have much of a choice. But went to high school here, went to Union High School, went to college here at OSU in Omogi. And I hadn't heard about Greenwood or Black Wall Street until way after I graduated. I was in my mid-20s, actually hosting a small group at a hotel here in town. And someone came up to me and asked, like, hey, I'm visiting from, I think it was from Tennessee. He's like, I want to go see like Black Wall Street, like Greenwood. Like, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, downtown, North Tulsa. I was like, Jazz Hall of Fame is down there, I guess. That was like the first time I actually like really heard about what it was. So to your point, not in school and not from anyone here.
From someone even outside the state, which makes sense. I mean, cities are not known for wanting to talk about the worst thing that's ever happened in their city.
I get it.
But yeah, it was nationally covered in newspapers around the country.
Yeah.
They just didn't lose those like we did. So
miraculously.
You went to college, and then did you study like marketing and branding, all that stuff in college, or did you get into that afterwards?
Yeah, so I did. So how I got into this was actually play basketball in high school for 2 years. Actually got cut my senior year. Didn't really grow. I'm not bitter. Don't remember my coach's name at all, Coach Garcia. Not bitter. But no, that's actually how I got into design. So I needed a new 6th hour because I was cut. So I got into a Photoshop class in my new 6th hour. And our teacher brought in some industry professionals at the end of the semester and looked at our portfolios. I'm doing air quotes for portfolio because it was quite terrible. A lot of Photoshop NBA posters. I made like a Kit Kat wrapper. But the 3 people that came in all said, hey, you got a really good eye. You got really good balance. I was like, I don't know what that means, but okay. So actually my mom really helped me find out that this was a career where you can get, paid to play on a computer. I was like, okay, if I can't play basketball, I can do that. But just using, creativity and art to create something. I still can't draw to save my life, but Photoshop really helps me open the doors of what this could actually be.
So for those that don't know, can you describe what Greenwood Ave is, what you produce and how it works?
For sure. So Greenwood Ave started in 2018 from a conversation with a friend. It was Greenwood Ave was a celebration of Black entrepreneurship around the world. Again, my background's in branding and design. So after being a Black entrepreneur for so long in Tulsa, after being in Tulsa for so long, and now hearing about the race massacre and knowing the Centennial was coming up, I was like, how can I do my part to help share some of this history? So people coming after me, my kids, anyone else looking for a way to learn about this history, how can I give them room to find out more about it? So I started doing T-shirts with the original shops of Greenwood shops on them. That's kind of how the whole thing got started, where, again, using my logo design skills to do that and launched that in Black History Month. And we all know everything in February is, yay, Black people. And then March 1st is like, okay, we'll see y'all next year. So in my mind, I was like, how do I keep this going beyond just February? So that actually launched a video series where we go and talk to entrepreneurs who are carrying on the legacy. Again, that went really well. And then I was like, hey, how do we keep this going even further? So just kind of started doing more merch, started doing more videos, and just the brand really started resonating with people where they wanted to learn more and more of the history. And for me, honestly, that's kind of what stuck out to me. Like as an entrepreneur, you know, you hear a lot about the massacre in Tulsa, especially around the centennial and beforehand, but I wasn't hearing a lot about the good. So when I heard, you know, that it was rebuilt a year after, like that's what inspired me. So as a believer, you know, that kind of was the trigger for me. It was like the story is not, or the inspiration is not in the death, but it's in the resurrection. So how can I highlight that part? So everything we do through Greenwood Ave, the magazine, the merch, the eventual podcast someday, I'm sure, will be, yes, let's talk about that, Jesse. Founder, producer.
I'm here. Well, so you mentioned the magazine.
Yeah.
So by the time people hear this, most people do not listen on the exact day episodes drop. So at that point, you will have launched your magazine.
Yes.
And we have a beautiful copy of it right here.
Thank you.
So why a magazine now? Right? I know you have your reasons, and
Sure.
I know they're good reasons, but I want to talk about it.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I've been asked that a couple times. And why, when I just heard yesterday that the economy supposed to be going down, I don't pay really much attention to that. For me, it was just the right time. And we've been talking about this for the past couple of years. But I'm always a believer in giving people handlebars to, you know, the message. So we have the merch already, we have the video series, but for people who might not be online watching those things or might not, you know, wear the merch, this is a spot for them to get some of the message that we're talking about. And again, it's all about another level of inspiration for me. So it's a magazine, but it's really more of a coffee table book. So try to create something that people can keep on their tables or have in their different spaces where somebody who can just might see the cover and just be intrigued, want to pick it up and share it. But also for us is we're doing a subscription model. So for $60 a year, you'll get 4 of our quarterly magazines, you get 21% off of our merch, and then we'll also have some exclusive content for those subscribers. So it creates a model for us to get some consistent revenue, but also be able to share, again, this message in different arenas. So we're a small team right now. In our video series, we've done a lot of things in Tulsa. We want to travel more, but with the magazine, it's a way we have feature stories from London, LA, New York, Baltimore, Chicago. We're able to kind of spread that out and share more stories from around the world. So our theme is Greenwood Ave is everywhere, because really, obviously, it's started here in Tulsa, but it's really, for me, not about just the 40 blocks that are in North Tulsa. It's a mindset, it's vision, it's passion. Like wherever people are realizing ideas, that's to me where Greenwood Ave is.
Well, and the magazine itself is beautiful. I mean, it isn't, you know, what I think people traditionally think of as a magazine. It feels like a collector's item.
Yes, sir.
I mean, amazing pictures in it as well. And that's just thumbing through it for a few minutes beforehand. Sure. So
thank you.
It's absolutely beautiful. And it seems like, for me personally, my interaction with your company has been as a clothing company. It sounds like that's just another medium for you.
Definitely.
You know, maybe that's the most forward-facing medium to people, but that's not really what your brand is about, right?
Definitely.
It's about celebrating Greenwood. That's what it feels like.
100%. Yeah, to your point, it's a celebration. The merch is one part of that. But again, doing the magazine and doing more things after this is really all-encompassingly celebrating Black entrepreneurship. And again, just really being that inspiration. My personal mission is to create pathways to purpose. And for me, this is part of that. I hate seeing people or hearing people, I'm just doing this job or just doing this thing just to make a dollar or just to make ends meet. But I believe that we're all here on purpose. We're all here created with a gift. So if I can somehow, through our merch, through our magazine, through, again, the eventual podcast, I'm gonna keep plugging at Jesse.
Yeah, listen.
We can get
he
people.
also does audiobooks, so if you write a book,
yeah, if you want to make an audiobook of the magazine, we can do that too.
Love it. Well, yeah. So Jesse found his purpose. So again, what I'm trying to do is unlock that for everybody else.
Let's
Jesse.
unlock this. I mean, so I grew up reading like magazines, and so I've always loved them, and I do feel like there is a need for, maybe not weekly, but like news and, you know, things that happen in the world attack us so quickly. Mm-hmm. We used to have a specific place where like those stories would be given time to breathe and we could analyze it. And those were magazines, and we don't really have those anymore, right? There's still like news magazines like 60 Minutes and whatnot, but that's one show and they're only covering like 3 stories an episode. And the history of Greenwood is like everyone, now that they're talking about, are just talking about the massacre, and they're not talking about the fact that it was rebuilt right afterwards, destroyed again, then rebuilt a third time. And as Chris and I both marched in the parade today, I didn't realize it the first time I marched in it, but the second time I'm like, wow, we go right under I-244. And I was just like giving it the finger the entire time. But like I-244. You see how much is still missing from there. And like the institutional things that stop Greenwood from rebuilding itself again.
I mean, not to get too controversial, but the fact that we walk through OSU's Tulsa's campus, and a lot of that land was stolen from Greenwood as well. So, it's like as we're marching through the institutional structures.
We really are,
that are holding, that have historically held back Greenwood.
I mean, like let's take the full route here for a second. Like we start in empty land that used to have homes and businesses on it, which have not been developed because they're still technically owned by the city, even though the city's trying to get rid of it now. Then we walk through OSU Tulsa and then under I-244, and then we're done. I'm like, it's really, I know why the parade's there, but it's just really just a constant reshowing of all the wrongs we have done.
It really is. And Dr. Christy Williams and Dr. Crutcher, she said it to me the first time I heard it, was that it's still an active crime scene. Like it's not, that land is a crime scene. It's like, I never thought about it that way, so it's real.
Oof. Yeah, she's not wrong.
She's not.
Well, I know that I really like your pop-up shop at Mother Road. So what was it like developing that and curating the space as well, not just using their sort of standard pop-up?
For sure. Yeah, well, the pop-up you're talking about is a space called 19 and 21. So I actually launched that brand simultaneously with Greenwood Ave. A lot of people kind of conflate the two, understandably so. It's both me, but the big vision for that is to really be, I've been saying out loud now, like the Black Crate and Barrel in a sense. So Greenwood Ave would be the flagship brand, so we sell most of our stuff there, but the goal is to sell other Black-owned vendors merchandise as well. So we have candles from a Black-owned maker. We sell toffee from Anthony Archie, who's makes his own toffee here in town. We have books from Fulton Street, the only Black-owned bookstore here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So the goal is to create space for other people who might not have a Target or a brick and mortar or need a startup spot. Obviously, it's only 100 square feet there, but we try to do something really intentional that kind of really stood out up there. And it was only supposed to be for a month, and they asked us to stay for 3 years. That was during COVID. I was like, I don't know about that. Maybe let's do a year. So we're actually about to go through our second year right now. But it's been great, and I've had people, mainly white people, come through, stop it. We on our wall, we talk a little bit about Black Wall Street and why that's there, and we'll just sit there for a second, read the wall, and just start crying. It's like, you know what, I lived here 40 plus years, my whole life. I never knew about this. Like, why isn't this being told? And honestly, like that kind of stuff for me, is why we need to have a presence there.
By the way, may I suggest Black and Barrel as the name of it?
Check the trademark.
Yeah, it is amazing that, considering all of the news story and especially all the attention around the centennial, that there are still people who don't know, and even if they do know, they don't know the full story. They don't know how bad it was. I mean, again,
they missed Lovecraft Country and
and The Watchmen and the 3 documentaries, like all done by NBA stars. Interestingly enough,
I don't think you tell it enough. I mean, it's again, the resurrection part of it to me is a phenomenal, like the greatest underdog story you could tell. So, people have asked, like, why don't you talk more about the massacre or the atrocities? Like, there's plenty of organizations do that. I was actually able to help Greenwood Rising directed and produced the opening film that plays at Greenwood Rising right now, and did some of the curation for them on the content. But there's plenty of organizations that talk about that, and I want to make sure what we're doing is, again, this is called Power for Good. We're trying to celebrate the good that came out of that and is still happening around the world.
And it's actually come up a few times when we've, talked with some experts, who've written books on it. And that's been the toughest part, is getting people to see beyond the massacre.
Yeah.
And to see the beauty of the people and the resiliency who rebuilt it.
For sure.
And were successful for decades before it then came back down again. But the beauty of that resiliency and the fight, when everything was trying to keep them down, the city was actively trying to prevent them from rebuilding, and they did it anyways.
Yeah, and some would say still are. And I get the pushback on that for sure, and I definitely feel that. And we said it a few minutes ago, but it is an active crime scene, and there are still survivors now fighting for reparations and a whole lawsuit fighting for justice. So I think if that wasn't actively happening, it might be easier for people maybe older than us to, I won't say let it go or get over it. That's not what I'm trying to advocate for at all. But again, want to make sure we're celebrating what happened. Obviously, you can't have the resurrection without that part either. So it goes hand in hand. And I think for this, it's I think Hannibal Johnson, I was talking to him about it, a local author, and he was saying that they call this like hard history, where it's just hard for people who, if you're on the wrong side of it, to want to talk about it. Yeah. So for me, this is kind of that secret agent entryway. Hey, this is really cool. Oh, what happened? Then you get to talk about the history. Then you get to talk about the rebuilding and things like that. So for me, this is just a handlebar entryway to a great part of them. Well, terrible and beautiful part of American history.
Yeah.
So
That's Chris and I also like to talk about the resiliency and how fast they were able to rebuild everything. The problem is, like, you want to talk about the happy stuff, but like usually when you're in those conversations with people talking about that part, you also need to remind those people of like why they had to do that in the first place. Sure. And so it's a weird balancing act, because like it is an active crime scene. Like there was the big crime and then a series of smaller crimes, and those crimes continue to this day. And like, how can we, like, we don't, I'm thinking of this from a marketing perspective. We can't just keep complaining about it. Like, we have to like show that no matter what keeps happening, like they're going to keep regrowing. A lot of people left but a lot of people stayed, and they keep trying to regrow and make the area like an attractive place for people to go, which I feel like at the moment it is, for as small as we're allowed to make it at this particular point. So
yeah, I think it's becoming, and again, we talked about at the beginning that more people, I think, outside of Tulsa are really drawn to it. Like, we were reaching out for stories when people saw Greenwood or heard Black Wall Street, they want to have a part of what's happening in Tulsa. I think that this resonates with people around the world, and why I love the ethos of our company, that Greenwood Ave is everywhere. So again, I everything in the world is energy, right? So to me, when they burned the buildings, like, they didn't kill it, they just transferred the energy. Now it's everywhere. So in Tulsa, London, UK, wherever. So there's no way to separate the two. But what I think we can do is highlight the good, and then also one thing we do too is give it back. 10% of all our proceeds back to North Tulsa. So we're not just saying, come celebrate us or buy our merch, but we're giving to things like the Oasis Project, with what AJ's doing at the Oasis Fresh Market, eliminating food deserts and food insecurity, to Terrence Crutcher Foundation, who's working on the lawsuit for Justice for Greenwood, the Greenwood Cultural Center, who's continuing to tell the history and the massacre side as well. So making sure that we're partnering and giving back to those institutions as well.
Do you have a favorite like rebuilding story, like one particular like person or like business that you just like, you read their story and you're like, damn, that's amazing?
One particular rebuilding story, I think John and Lula Williams, who own the Dreamland Theater, always kind of stick out to me. I know they're one of the most popular, but Lula actually owned so many things. Dreamland Theater was rebuilt right after. The amount of stuff that they did and was able to do, and then give space to other people to house businesses like that. Just that spirit of camaraderie, connectivity, of giving, just incredible to me. And O.W. Gurley, I kind of go like OG Gurley. He's just the vision to see that 40 acres, and create what we now know as Black Wall Street, to me is phenomenal. So I can't say one thing in particular, but I wish there was more documentation and pictures and things of like, how did people actually like pull themselves up. So
I know one of the things that you have said is that you want Greenwood Ave to be international and to be online, so it can't be destroyed again. So what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so for me, it really is, I think, just the knowledge sharing part of it. So again, when we talk to, there's one feature in the magazine from London. His name's Abubakar Salim. He actually was on a HBO show called Raised by Wolves. We struck up a relationship last year, but told him what we were doing through Greenwood Ave. And again, just the idea of these Black people came together to create this space when there wasn't one, like, that resonated with him. So now that he knows this happened, he can take that same spirit to what he's doing. There's a guy named Carl Brunson, also in the UK, from America. He wrote a book. Now he's a celebrity matchmaker in the UK. He has bought a lot of our merch. He called me or texted me a while back and said somebody stopped him on the street and was like, "I love your bomber jacket." It says Black Wall Street Tulsa on the back, but like sharing what we're doing or what was built here overseas and around the world, like just the knowledge of what happened and what was built here, again, is resonating around the world. So for me, it's that just kind of knowledge sharing that, no, this happened and it was rebuilt and it's being, again, rebirthed in people all around the world.
So let's ask a non-business related question.
Sure.
Since you told the story of how you got into graphic design when you were covering your basketball team
Not bitter.
Hex on that coach. Like, I'm gonna ask you some basketball questions. I'm also a basketball fan. So like, growing up, like, who was your favorite basketball player?
Ooh, so I was raised in Illinois. So I grew up in Decatur, Illinois, 2 hours south of Chicago in the early 90s. So,
Okay.
I mean, you know,
question answered. Okay.
You know, it's what it was. Yeah.
He was a Knicks fan.
I'm a Knicks fan, so I have a hate relationship with Michael Jordan.
I forgot. Who do you hate more, Reggie Miller?
Oh, Reggie Miller for sure. Because Michael Jordan was great against everybody.
Right.
Reggie Miller was just great against the Knicks. So
there you go.
And he cheated. Michael Jordan did it fair. So you know.
Yeah. I mean, when I moved here, I found out about Allen Iverson. He became my favorite. But
love Allen Iverson.
Yeah. So I had braids the whole nine. So.
Can you still like if you hear like the first couple notes from the Chicago Bulls like intro bit?
Yeah. I started sweating.
Everyone, because
I taste popcorn and hot dogs.
Because like we even got I don't know why Oklahoma also had that one Chicago station.
WGN.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of Bulls.
Yeah. Chicago Bulls. Yeah. I mean, even I was
Bulls,
like
Cubs. We got a lot of that.
I still get like goosebumps from it
all day. This actually started one. So this isn't about that, but another project through our main company Goldmill is going to be coming out sometime soon. There's a project called XO, which again I love basketball. Obviously, I was flying back home from business family and was like, you know what? If I was thinking about entrepreneurship, I didn't know what that word meant when I was growing up, but if I was an entrepreneur when I was like 16, when I was still hooping all the time, what would I have done? It was like I would do something with basketball. So I started thinking of this really immersive basketball environment, and I called it XO, which actually comes from the Jordan clause for the love of the game. So X is obviously a sports term, but then XO means love. So right now we're working on it's the first time I'm actually announcing it, but working on a game here in town. I won't go to all the details, but to really launch that brand. So it's going to start out as an online merch brand, and then again our whole mission with all our brands for Goldmill is to uplift, inspire, and shine. And with that, we're going to be giving back to young kids trying to get into basketball, like paying for AU team trips, things like that. But creating a new basketball brand that's just about love for basketball on and off the court. So.
If you're like me, you might hear estate planning and go, "Ugh, gross." You might think to yourself, "I'm not sure why I'd bother with that. Estate planning is only for the uber rich."
Tallgrass begs to differ. Tallgrass founding attorneys Laurel and Riley think everyone should have an estate plan. They know estate planning seems untouchable to a lot of folks, like something you have to do inside a stuffy law firm of Stuffy McLawyer Pants Esquire.
But I promise you, Tallgrass is nothing like that. For one, they work out of their home so their clients can feel at home. They obsess, because they're nerds, over making clients feel like they belong and are supposed to be there. Also, their kids might make an appearance. They will take time to answer all of your questions, even the uncomfortable ones. They will work relentlessly to make sure your plan's exactly what you need to feel secure and at peace.
So if you've been putting off planning for what's going to happen after you've gone, it's time for you to give Tallgrass a call at 918-770-8940 and start your plan today. Or visit their website at tallgrassesstateplanning.com and schedule a free initial consultation. For free! It's right there on the website.
And of course, there's more, because this is a podcast ad. If you tell them you're a Pod for Good listener, they're going to take 25% off their service fees. Just tell them Pod for Good sent you. Stop thinking estate planning isn't for you and give Tallgrass a call today at 918-770-8940 or on their website, which I'm not going to read out to you again. It's in our show notes. Thank you, Tallgrass. I was born in 1981. So the 90s was like my preteen and teenage years. Mm-hmm. And I remember just like going back to Allen Iverson for a second, just watching the effect he had on the league and like the fashion, the just like doing what he thought was right by him and the culture he came from. I was just like, this is great. And I could tell all the old white people were like, oh, no. I'm like, yes.
Like, I mean, they changed the dress code because of him. As well. The impact sports can have, I think it's an incredible thing. I don't like the idea of celebrities, mainly not because of the people, because of how people treat them, but the impact that can have, I mean, it is phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, we went from Jordan saying like even Republicans buy shoes to LeBron James and all the NBA players wearing, I can't breathe sweatshirts on the court. I'm like, all right, using your tools for good.
Yeah.
So,
It's important.
Yeah. So you said the magazine's going to come out quarterly.
Yes.
Are you trying to tell like an overarching story like per year, or is each sort of magazine its own sort of journey?
That's a great question. So I think overarchingly, again, it centers around Black entrepreneurship in different arenas. So each first quarter will be kind of what we're calling our Everywhere edition. So again, the overall theme is Greenwood Ave is everywhere. So each one we'll do in different cities. And then quarters 2 through 4 will be more industry specific. So for instance, this next one will be centered around Black chefs and talking about what a seat at the table means. So we just connected with an amazing group in Houston called the Black Chefs Table. And that's what they do. Their whole thing is about curating space for Black people, telling why these meals matter. How do you work with other, BIPOC and Black founder or farmers to resource your food? Like it matters like where you buy your stuff from. Quarter 3 will be all about tech. So Building Souls is one of our partners working with them. And then quarter 4 will be all about Black artists. So it'll be more photography heavy, just really featured on Black artists. So we're looking at launching that in Miami at Art Basel. So
nice.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I mean, I wish, and I'll take a picture of it so we can put it on social media, like how good this magazine looks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Come on Saturday.
Yeah.
Whenever you listen to this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess I didn't know if it was open to the public or not. But,
Yeah, it is.
Like this Saturday, which the 21st.
21st.
If you're listening to this on Thursday and Friday,
January the 21st.
January the 21st at what time?
2023. In case they're
Yeah.
listening to it way in the future.
Yeah.
Right. From 1 to 3 p.m.
From 1 to 3 p.m. at the Black Wall Street Times offices. You are having a Greenwood Ave magazine launch party.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. So
Yeah.
you can actually get it right now on greenwoodave.com. There's also available at our pop-up shop in Mother Road, Anthracite 473 Fulton Street Books. This is all in Tulsa. I know you guys have an international audience.
We do have those Australian listeners I'm
Yes.
still trying to track down.
But it's available at all those places, and will be hopefully for moving forward.
Yeah.
When the year's done, you have the 4 magazines from the first year. Are you going to make like an omnibus edition to sell, like of all of them, and like a?
You are a marketing guy.
Yeah.
Sure are,
Yeah, he's jumping right in.
I love me like a well I don't know what the term is for when you make a book, but like just like a
well bound.
like a leather bound
Yeah.
An artistic version.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah.
That's a good. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, we have on our wall in our office like the next 4 years built out. So I think the 5th one will be coming out next year, and then the 10th one will be 2 years from now. So thinking about doing some type of edition around that. But yeah.
So here's a weird question.
Sure.
Like, were you able to copyright Greenwood Ave or trademark it?
You know what? I tried, not because, and this was like 3 years down the road. I never didn't even think about it when I first started it, honestly, because I think everyone owns it, like it's not mine, so to speak. And there was already some Greenwood things happening. Someone did say you should try to trademark, so I did, and it got denied actually because of the location, because it's a location apparently.
You can't I guess you can't trademark a name of a location.
Right. So I
That's
like the look,
interesting,
the look, the signature font that we did. We can do trademark all those things, but there's actually a couple other like Greenwood Ave video series out there.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Is like,
yeah.
have you gotten flack from other people who've also used the name?
I actually tried to reach out to a couple, or one of them at least, when I first started. Just like, hey, it kind of started around the same time. I was like, I'm not trying to copy you. Like, I didn't even see this before we started, but like, you want to partner up? They never really responded. But for me, again, so somebody's gonna do it. Someone on Amazon's gonna like do something similar. But my whole thing is like, let's just keep doing what we're doing in excellence, and like that's gonna stand. This is hard enough to do already. But somebody's like, I can do that too. I was like, you can. Like, feel free.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not in it for now. Not for a fad. Like when we of course the Centennial was coming up, and everybody was like, you should like do a bunch of paid ads and this things. Like honestly, we didn't really do like an event, or we didn't really do anything because I didn't want it to be caught up in the moment. Like I really wanted to be more of a movement. So I was like, we're going to be here after all the cameras are gone, all the music stops after Centennial. When people stop talking about it, we're still going to be here because this is what matters to us. It's not really about, let's just capitalize off this moment.
But I mean, it's almost better that it can't be trademarked, right? Because it's sort of in the spirit of Greenwood and Black Wall
100%.
Street, right? Because the community, so much was about creating space for each other.
100%.
It wasn't about, oh, you want to start up a business? Well, you're going to have to pay me all this rent to use my space.
For sure.
There's so many stories about people who needed a place to start out. Like, okay, just go until you're getting going, and then we'll work something out.
We were talking about John and Lula Williams before.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading about when they started the Dreamland Theater, like right either across the street or down the block was something called the Rex Theater. And they made an agreement. It was so close to each other that one would only play new movies and one would play like reruns. So again, just being able to work together in so close proximity, doing the same thing, but hey, look, we can both benefit off this. And my friend AJ talks a lot about in his episode, like people were selling, you sell oranges, I got apples, like we can put it together and make some juice. Like there's a way to do it all. Like when the Legacy Fest was happening, there was probably 20 tents selling Black Wall Street shirts or something with Greenwood on it. Like I'm not like going in like, hey, that's my design. I'm doing that first. Like
here's a cease and desist letter.
Right. I mean, it's not in the spirit of what we're trying to do. Again, I think if we can keep I just try to keep a level of excellence where people know it's Goldmill or Greenwood Ave or things like that, and doing what we can do and try to help others along the way, then it's a win for us.
Yeah, I mean, because Black Wall Street's success was the amount of times $1 in Black Wall Street would circle back around.
Yeah,
and one way of doing that is not trademarking things you can't trademark apparently, but like helping people out versus fighting over your small square of whatever it is you're selling.
Right, understanding that life isn't a zero-sum game, like realizing that you winning can also be me winning
100%.
And working together on that instead of feeling like if you're doing well, it's hurting me and fighting it.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, someone was asking the other day, I was like, it's honestly, we're through our video series, through this magazine, our whole business model, if you want to call it that, is celebrating other people. Like our videos are about other businesses. Like we win by highlighting you. So
you are the point guard on this basketball team.
I love it. Yeah, man. I always say I'm more Chris Paul than LeBron. Like honestly, truly, like I get more joy out of throwing the hoop than I would dunking it. Like that is just me personally, is how I operate when it comes to business. So I mean,
I honestly, that came up in my head when you were talking about the zero-sum game thing. Like if anyone thinks about how successful teams work, it's because of that philosophy. Like Russell Westbrook, when he won his MVP because he had the ball 90% of the time with that one Thunder team, like they didn't win a championship that year.
No, they did not.
Right? He scored a lot of points. Good for him. Right? But like good teams need people. Like Michael Jordan needed Scottie Pippen. Michael Jordan needed Steve Kerr.
Yeah,
like
we needed Jeb Bush.
Yeah,
that's
Tony Kukoc.
Yeah, Bill Cartwright. We can name all the Bulls.
Dickie Simpsons. We needed them all.
B.J. Armstrong.
Randy Brown.
Yeah.
I
know so many 90s basketball players that like no one cares about now.
You should just start a podcast and just name them.
Name 90s basketball players.
Charles Smith, Derek Harper. I can go through all the Knicks teams. Xavier Daniel. Sorry. Well, now on NBA video games, you can play old 90s teams, and so like I'm loving it. Yeah. I'm like, give me that.
Just play with Charles Oakley.
Yeah, listen, he's a great rebounder both in real life and in a video game. Like, he will beat the crap out of you. Like Charlie Ward, man, good times. Anyway,
but going off on a tangent.
Listen, don't go back and watch those games though. They are slow. Basketball is different now.
It is. We're like 67, 75.
It's like they had a 3-point line. They're like, no, we're not going to shoot those.
Yeah, you mentioned that you want to go for a subscription model. So how would that work? How would people connect to it, sign up, and just describe it a little bit more.
Yeah, again, so people can subscribe at greenwoodave.com/magazine. Again, it's $60 a year. The thought behind that is you would get essentially like one free magazine if you were to get all 4. It would be a little more than that. So, and then you also get 21% off of our merch. The goal is to continue to bring people back to the site. And as we're growing the subscription model, we're actually going to be doing more content. So with each, like I mentioned, each quarter will be a new industry. So we're doing some different content around that. So for instance, the next one for food, we actually shot a couple pilot episodes in our pop-up space in 1921 called Eats and Beats. So essentially it's a sit down at a circular table, and we had a food entrepreneur make a dish for us. We talked about food, and then we have a local artist that also sat with us. We talk about how does food impact music, music impact food, food and music work as entrepreneurship. And then we did a kind of a tiny desk style performance inside our pop-up.
Oh, nice.
So we have a couple episodes of that that's going to drop.
Very cool.
That's really cool.
Whenever the food one drops, and we'll release that. Working on something else for the tech segment. Then we'll do like something unique for each different one, but want our subscribers to be able to access that. We also have a potential, can't talk about it yet because it's not in stone, but a potential one-off magazine for a certain company that our subscribers will only have access to. But being able to do unique things like that hopefully give that subscription more value as well.
It's very cool. Like, I don't want to keep saying like how cool this is, but it's very cool.
I appreciate it. It means a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
and we haven't even gotten to read the stories yet. That's just
true.
At the
story,
artwork, the pictures, the way it's designed.
I mean, that Carlos story is going to be good. Carlos is a good writer.
He is.
Well, and a lot of times when we are talking about Greenwood on this podcast or in general, it's usually around either like an issue or a problem that's still going on. What's fascinating about this conversation is like, yes, we're still talking about those things, but what you're trying to do is like not move past it, but like focus on the fact that this sense of entrepreneurship and this sense of like business acumen and success still exists here, and trying to feature it as a way of then reminding people of what happened. And I think that's refreshing. I think it's positive. And I think it's incredibly helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, the whole thing is celebrate the past, inspire the future. So I think you can do both at the same time when again, we're not moving away from what happened. Even the reason our separate shop is called 19 and 21, which for me, like one day we'll have a brick and mortar. Like it's going to be forever reminder. Like this is the year when the city of Tulsa, when this mob tried to kill the spirit. This is also the year for me when you birth something new. So like we'll never get past it. It's just how do we build on what was already happening there?
Yeah, and really, if you think about it, Tulsa prides itself on a spirit of entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
and you could argue that it took that from Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think it's an argument. I mean, that's really where it was born and probably stolen as well. So I mean, I know you've also mentioned that this isn't just Black history. This is American history. This is the history of Tulsa. That's
100%.
Some of the characteristics that Tulsa likes to celebrate came from there. They don't like to talk about that that's where it came from, but that's where it came from.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tulsa could do itself a better service if we just admit it. Like say this happened and like, again, just celebrate it. Obviously this is not easy to do. Not the mayor. I don't know what that looks like logistically, but for me, I'm trying to do my part. Here's an avenue where we can do both. Again, celebrate the past, inspire the future, and hopefully continue to move forward in a way that helps everybody shine and grow and be better as a result at the end of the day.
So in a practical sense, what did you learn while putting together a magazine? Like going from, I'm guessing you didn't have any magazine experience beforehand.
Some print design. Actually, my past job, I was creative director of the church, and we did a magazine. Well, I did a magazine. So I learned how to do one. It was less than a quarter of the pages. But yeah, so not really, but sort of.
Well, I mean, like, so, okay, let's do a thought experiment for our listeners.
Yes.
Like, we all read most of the things we read news-wise, like on our phones now. What did you have to think about when you're visualizing, an 8.5 by 11 double spread page that would make it appealing to people? Like, what's the thought process there?
Well, definitely got to say it was a total team effort. So myself, our team at Goldmill, Sam, Ethan, Taylor, Rochelle, Ashley, all really helped formulate this. So I'm a visual guy. So we printed out just like white pieces of paper, like here's where a story can go, here's where a picture can go, and just kind of really mapping out how this flows together. And again, just being a designer, our whole thing is like it's a art meeting solving a problem. So we can do something beautiful, but how are we the user experience? Like we do a lot of digital design, but through a magazine, it's like it's still the same way. If I'm flipping through, I want to start with something historical to give context, and let's go to let's do the first story in Tulsa because it's here, and then the next one, like what's the next natural progression? Where do we put the lookbook at? Is it a good palette cleanser in the middle to kind of get us through? And then once you read through, like we start with a bit of history from Nehemiah, and we don't go too deep into the massacre, but just what was Greenwood then. And then the last article or section in the magazine is Greenwood today. So we went and just took photos of like, here's what it is today, like which is kind of sad because it's not what you would expect it to be, which again is just a sobering part. Is real, is what it is. So we actually took the tour with Chief Amusan and had a couple of photographers come with us and just like, let's just take pictures of what's here today. So some of the markers and the bridge and what's happening. So again, it's like, what if you're not here? It's like, what am I looking at? But that is kind of on purpose of like, this should be more, but it's not, So it's a weird thing. But yeah, just thinking through that user experience, like what does it look like to go from here to the end, hear the stories, be inspired, and then here's what it is today. So
do you have a favorite story?
I really like there's a couple. It's hard to pick because I really appreciate everybody that was featured in here.
This is no disrespect to anyone who wrote in it. Everyone's amazing.
Favorite story, like written story, is Quentin Vinny from Baltimore. He has a company called Equity, and he started because his son had ADHD, and he didn't want him to be on medication for the rest of his life, like the doctor said he would. So he started making tea at home, and his son really started reacting to that, and he continued to do it. Now has his own company. He's been on featured on Goop, Gwyneth Paltrow's company, been on Oprah, T and Tamara, like uses products, and just really, again, to me, that is the essence of entrepreneurship. Is like I'm creating this to then solve a problem, and then it just kind of becomes a business. Same way you did, Jesse, with the pot. So.
Listen, I need to try that tea. So as someone who has ADHD, I'm curious.
Yeah. So have you gotten any kind of pushback or negativity with either the brand, the magazine, anything?
You know what, I'm waiting for it, but I haven't yet. It's been a few years, and maybe I also don't like social media, so I'm not on there often. So maybe it's there and I just haven't seen it. Yeah. But it's been overwhelmingly positive, which again, I am very grateful for. And I've always tried to just be upfront with, again, the give back part of it, because I'm aware that I'm technically I wasn't born here. I'm not a descendant, not a survivor. When I started doing the t-shirts, I was trying to find like, hey, does this family still around? Like, if we do this, is this going to offend somebody? Just try to use my connections in the community. Bobby Eaton, a good friend of mine, has been really great with that. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Do you know somebody? And just trying to connect the dots. It's been overwhelmingly positive, and I'm thankful. And again, maybe just oblivious to the bad, but I've been so thankful. Like the first time I got an email from a teacher in Tulsa that sent a picture of one of our videos on their screen in class watching. I was like, I never expected when I started. That was not in my mind of like, this is going to be used to do that. This last year, a lady named Robin Eller, who's actually a sub feature in here as well, from LA. She worked with Russell Westbrook when he did his history documentary. They created a curriculum based around our video series to teach young kids about Black Wall Street and how, again, today it's used today, which again was not expecting to be in front of, but that's what it's about. And things like that continue to happen, and not like I've never ran a Facebook ad for, never did an Instagram ad, haven't did any like PR like paid for, but we were featured in Vogue last year. Grant Hughes and Sophia Bush, when they were here using their wedding to highlight Greenwood, he wore one of our 1921 shirts, and they shouted us out in a Vogue article, and it's been in Wall Street Journal, Washington Post. Just somebody was wearing it and took a picture. Somebody did an installation at the airport with one of our jackets. I mean, it's just that kind of stuff has just been happening. I'm like, I'm not taking credit for it. Like, it's definitely all God, and I'm just thankful to have this platform to, again, hopefully inspire someone else. Like, if Trey can do it and he don't know what he's doing, he never did a magazine before, like, yeah, you can do it too.
Well, and like I forgot to even ask you about it, but you're also the creative director for the Fire in Little Africa project, right?
Yes. Which,
like, design-wise just looked fantastic.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That was a lot of fun.
And just like the look of it was, naming it that was, I think, both ballsy and perfect at the same time. So.
I totally agree. When Steph, Simon, actually went to high school with Steph, and that's partly how I got into this. And he kind of we found each other through Fire in Little Africa, and Stevie Johnson, who was also co-executive producer. He got one of our hoodies through somebody else, and we connected. And when they told me the name, we got this project. It says called Fire in Little Africa. I was like, I'm in. Yeah. You just know, you branding. I know when you hear a name, it's like, yep, I already see it. I got you. I'm in.
Yeah, it's like taking something that was just used so badly and just like throwing it back in their face.
That's
in the mansion of one of the worst Tilsons ever. I know. Great.
That was the whole thing. Yeah, if you can flip something to me, like the flip is like beautiful. And I don't know if you, obviously it's not about Fire in Africa, but the design of that, like we took for the typography, we took the lettering from one of the postcards that said Fire in Africa.
Oh, I know.
Made the logo out of it. Yeah. So I mean, that whole thing, like we're trying to flip that history. Like,
I mean, that was coming out as I was like volunteering, doing work for the John Hope Franklin Center around their symposium they have every year about the race massacre. And just like, I literally like saw that picture, like, cause it's, anytime you go through pictures, it's there. And then like saw the announcement of Fire in Little Africa, like at the same day, I'm like, wait. Yeah. I'm like, back and forth. I'm like, nice. Yeah. It's like, F you, buddy. Cause they sold that as postcards, right? It wasn't just one photo that guy wrote on. Yeah. It was. Yeah.
I mean, on some level, that's a little bit of the spirit of Greenwood coming back. It's F you, buddy.
Yeah, F you, buddy.
It kind of is.
Yeah, you try to kill it, but we're still here. Still we rise. Yeah.
Listen, spite. Like, that's why I'm still here. So let's wrap it up again with all the different ways people can support you, your myriad number of companies, and how they can subscribe to the magazine again.
So people can connect with us at greenwoodave.com. You can subscribe to our magazine there. You can purchase merch there. You can also watch our video series, all on greenwoodave.com. If you're in Tulsa, you can stop by our 19 and 21 pop-up shop at Mother Road Market.
Trey, thank you so much for joining us today. This is great.
It's been an honor.
thank you all for listening to our episode with Trey. It was fun and enjoyable, as you could tell, and also very informative. And I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all subscribe to their magazine. And if you're listening to this before January 21st, 2023, come out on Saturday to the magazine launch. I will be there. Chris might be there. Trey will definitely be there. So support local business, support local Black businesses. And remember to like and subscribe to this podcast. Please give us a review. I beg of you. You know what? I'm done with begging. Don't give us a review. I'm going to get saucy about it in 2023. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay safe out there. Broken Arrow, get your shit together.